Hi, and welcome back to Hedge Fund Manager. I'm Karl-Mikael Siding, and in today's deep dive of Kaspi, we are now at the headwinds and tailwinds section, and we'll start with the technical analysis. So what we are doing in our technical analysis is trying to discern useful, reliable enough trends in the stock price that other investors are creating as they are looking to find the best possible investments. So recall what a market is. It's people with money, actually funds, usually automatic funds, that are always trying to both find undervalued companies and trending stock prices and put their money where it's working. And this process is what's sometimes creating more or less reliable stock price patterns. And that's what we're trying to find when we do our technical analysis. So let's take a look at Kaspi. So what we're looking for are, for example, price channels. A price channel is a stock price trend which has smaller counter trends around that main trend. We're also looking for support and resistance levels where we have seen the stock price bounce upwards or downward from these supports and resistances. And also my favorite indicator, the 200-day moving average. What it is simply an average of the stock prices over the last 200 trading days, so almost a full year. And if the stock price is above the 200-day moving average, and if the stock price has previously shown that it honors the 200-day moving average by bouncing on it or staying above for long periods of time, we were talking about years, or staying below for a very long time. If the stock is such that it's honoring the 200-day moving average and it's on the right side of it, then we consider it a positive, so a tailwind, a positive tailwind pushing the stock forward and upward. So what we can see here from Kaspi's about 1 year stock chart. The blue line here is the 50-day moving average, and the purple line is the 200-day moving average. So what we're seeing here is that after breaking down below the 200-day moving average about a year ago, it has stayed below the 200-day moving average. You can see here by the end of 2024 how it bounced several times against the 200-day, and then actually also started to honor the 50-day moving average. It was trying to break through it, but actually never really made it. We had a false breakthrough here in the early 2025, but basically it has stayed below. Fortunately, if we are looking to buy the share, we can see here how it's during the last three months or so has found a kind of a floor. So this seems to be creating a strong support around the $80 level, actually 78 here in the chart. And after challenging the $80 line 4 or 5 times, it has then broken up above the 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is of course not as strong a signal as the 200-day, but it's more timely. So you get an earlier signal if you are ready to take a little bit more of a risk and a chance that it's about to break up. Right now, around the $90 level, we are at the kind of a crossroads. So we are above the 50-day, but recall that it has been above the 50-day before and then shown, and then it's been a false break upward, and it's fallen after that again. So we are at the kind of a crossroads here at the $90, and it's because it has been the previous bottoms for the share price, and it was also, not least, You can see here it's the final breakdown, this gap in the chart that it did as it cancelled its dividend on the AGM on March 31st this year. So after that, the stock has had trouble moving above the $90 price, and we're right there again now. What will, if the stock manages to go above the $90, I would consider that a pretty strong signal, and at least we should see a challenge of the 200-day, and my guess is that we will break through up above the 200-day. But for now, we can consider this just a non-conclusive technical analysis. There are both positives and negatives, but this is not a strong headwind nor a strong tailwind. And this is, from a purely technical perspective, I would not consider this something that technical analysts would use in order to actually put in a buy recommendation or buy the stock. They would probably wait for more confirmation, especially considering how it's not really been honoring these trends earlier. But given that it's so cheap, and given that we know the reasons for breaking down is this large acquisition and the cancelled dividend, and my guess is that they will probably resume the dividend pretty soon. And from my point of view, from a fundamental point of view, it's actually kind of a strong signal that they have been able to perform these acquisitions of Rabobank and Hepsiburada in Turkey with just only internally generated cash flow. Moving on to the macro perspective, so another headwind or tailwind, what we're looking for are big picture factors that affect our forecasts for either earnings or, let's say, earnings ratios meaningfully, but in a vague way, in a way that we can't really put into our forecasts, but that probably would make these forecasts harder or easier to attain. So macro headwinds and tailwinds. So for example, could trade wars affect the Kazakh and Turkey economies negatively? Yes, they could, but they're also kind of a little bit on outside of the real tariff wars. We could see in January 2025 that there was a negative shock to Kazakhstan's exports, but they recovered pretty quickly right after. So we're right back on trend again. The main exports for Kazakhstan are mainly oil and gas. That's 3/4 of their exports. But they also export metals like uranium. And it's Europe, China, and Russia who are the biggest buyers. And the US, which is the trouble child here, they are just a negligible importer from Kazakhstan. It's less than 5%. So I would say that the macro trends speak very much in favor for Kazakhstan for many years to come, because they are exporting real assets, and I think that real assets is really moving into a good period for the coming 5 years. Another big macro factor to consider is the market's valuation level, and it actually set a new record high valuation on July 18, 2025, so just before recording this. This could act as a magnet upward for all multiples. However, it doesn't seem like Kaspi is enjoying any of that magnetic pull upward. But anyway, I would say that the total conclusion for the macro picture is also just non-conclusive.